So finally we've reached the climax of the franchise. Now there's enough one-star reviews of this movie, like 3 Shades of Suck. Finally we're freed of this awful franchise. Now I'm going to do something a little different. I'm going to talk about what I think the movie does really well and what critics don't really understand about this movie in particular, but the franchise, including the books in general. Now if you look at the books, they've always been more wish fulfillment fantasy than any kind of controversial exploration of BDSM. The BDSM was always kind of a selling point, a bit salacious, titillation, but never was the core of the books. Now, if you look at the audience who loves these books, a small percentage of them might actually want this guy to whisk them away and then tie them up and do all this bondage stuff, but almost all of them would love a billionaire who's confident to come and whisk them away into this opulent lifestyle, and it's that portion of it that really is the major selling point. Honestly, you could take all the BDSM stuff out of the books, and I think it would have just as large a fan base. If you still had Christian Grey and his personality and his backstory, and you still had Anastasia, I don't think people are only tuning in for the BDSM. I think that's just kind of something that's interesting and fun and happens to be there. So understanding that it's primarily fantasy wish fulfillment, when you have Anastasia in this movie enjoying her wealth, driving his Audi, finally standing up and asserting herself, especially to that real estate developer. You have her being whisked away to all these rendezvous in different parts of the world, trying on clothes, lingerie. Maybe it's not a great piece of cinema, but as far as a crowd-pleasing fan service, it really hits the mark. And I did think it was interesting when they'd have these crosscuts of Anastasia sexually still very submissive, being dominated, but more and more in her career and socially asserting herself and becoming more independent. And understand that 50 Shades of Grey has always mixed wealth and opulence and elegance and sexuality, and no more so than in this movie. I mean, they're sex toys, you're seeing sex toys, but they also look like pieces of art that cost $100,000 a pop. It's like BDSM mixed with bling, and in this movie, we get so many money shots, not figurative, metaphorical money shots, literally shots of just money and wealth. And it is lifestyle porn to an extent, but understand that those are the books. She didn't meet in the books a sketchy, wrong side of the tracks guy who got her into BDSM. No, she met this hyper billionaire. So I think that ending the series of her finally asserting her independence within this wealthy sphere and finally becoming a part of this wealth, I think it's fine. And I also like how, rather than all the movies being steamy and the young beginnings of their relationship, I like how this ended with them settling down and settling into comfortable married life. And some of the issues they explored, like Christian Grey not wanting to have a son because he was worried that the son or the daughter would take away from Anastasia and he wanted her all to himself. It seems ridiculous on its face, but that's a real struggle that a lot of married people go through. And I do think it's very funny when we see Christian get drunk. Now, he does have a smoldering intensity and this very interesting kink, but he's never had the most dynamic of personalities. When he finally gets drunk, we finally get to see him with some flair and some style. And look, focusing the movie around marriage, understand that despite the BDSM, they've always had a fairly conservative, traditional, monogamous relationship, and those relationships, they tend to end in marriage, so it's fine. And also, in the first movie, BDSM was this scandalized, shocking element. I do like how in this movie it was just kind of portrayed as just something they happened to be. And again, I think the books, rather than being about BDSM, no, they're about two people falling in love who happen to like BDSM. And I do think it's fascinating that a movie could come out where the BDSM aspect is so normalized and so nonchalant. And I will say, I thought the sex scenes in this were excellent. The R&B, the breathing, the panting, the glitzy visuals. The one I didn't like, now the ice cream scene, it's funny, I can watch the bondage and that no problem, but when you put ice cream in the mix, suddenly I'm a prude. I didn't find it sexy, I found it kind of gross. I think it was a misfire, but I guess some people are into that. And then Luke Grimes, he's in this. I also saw him in El Camino Christmas. I think he's great. I really hope he gets more roles going forward. I think he's a star. But bottom line, for everyone giving this 0 stars or 1 stars, I think the point of a capstone of a trilogy is fundamentally, it's not to draw new people in, it's fundamentally to give fans what they want to see and, you know, give back to the fans that have made this series possible. And I think that deep down this movie does it. So do I think it was a great movie? No. Do I want to rush out and go see it again? No. Do I think that I can say it's a bad movie given what I think the role of a third movie of a franchise should be? No. I think it's actually decent.